on media and crimes. So any questions the audience has, they can be asked in the comment section. We will address the audience questions at the end. So I request the audience to type the questions in the comment section below. So let's begin. It is not an alien phenomena where media has not intervened in a criminal case and have started their own trial before the actual court proceedings began. There have been several cases where media where media allegations have influenced the public opinion and it has created a chaos without any basis. These trials have raised important questions about media ethics and its impact on the legal system and have shaped public opinion and discourses and perceptions. Some of the most popular cases in India where media has heavily influenced these criminal cases is the Arushi Talwar case, Nirbhaya case, Jessica Lal case, Sheena Bora case, and much more. The second subtopic of our panel discussion is how dark OTT content can influence the public and should such content be censored or not. There are several shows on OTT that depict some of the most gruesome true stories, and watching them can leave a terrifying impact on the audience. To name some of these content are the Burari deaths, the Indian Predator series, the Amir, and more. So today, our distinguished panel of legal experts will delve into this topic and break down how media trial influences criminal cases in India, offering profound insights into their impact on the legal system and society as a whole. So today we have Mr. Sushant Kale, who is a renowned lawyer specializing in criminal, cybercrime, money laundering, etc. In his 3 years of experience, he has seen several criminal cases. He will bring his vast experience to the table to discuss the effects of media trials on criminal cases in India and also explore the implications of such trials on the justice system and how it affects the way society perceives criminals. Hello, Mr. Sushant.
Yeah, hello.
Second, we have Mr. Harsh Butch, who is an associate partner at TMT Law Practice. He had commenced his practice in 2015, obtaining his LLB degree from University of Mumbai after his graduation in BSc Computer Science. He advises and represents several MNCs on various other laws like collaboration and joint venture agreements, media laws, energy laws, project infrastructure and construction laws. He is also a member of the Singapore Maritime Arbitration Center and an empaneled legal advisor for the Merchant Navy Welfare Board India and the National Maritime Foundation India. Welcome to the panel discussion, Mr. Harsh.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
And then we have Ms. Akriti Singh. She is a practicing advocate based in New Delhi. She has graduated with BBA LLB honors with a specialization in corporate law from the School of Law UPES Dehradun, where she has developed her interest in corporate governance and competition law. She has experience in dealing with cases related to criminal law, property law, competition law, money laundering, and service matters. She has also represented clients before the Delhi High Court, NCLT, NCLAT, and other tribunals. She has also played an active role in Google versus CCI in NCLAT on behalf of the Competition Commission of India. She has also in depth experience in criminal trials and bail petitions. And welcome to the panel discussion, Akriti.
Thank you so much, Ankita.
And now we have Miss Shreya Sharma. She is the CEO of Restake. She will be moderating this panel discussion. So here's a brief intro about her. Ms. Shreya Neeraj Sharma is CEO of Rest the Case. She is a lawyer, mediator, and founder of Rest the Case. And her vision is to make a one-stop solution for all things legal in India. She has studied law at Cardiff University, Wales. She founded this platform to make legal solutions and information accessible to all, no matter how big or small the problem is. So, hello, Shreya.
Hi, Ankita.
So, Before go ahead with the discussion, I would like to show a small video about our company.
Rest the Case is a legal aggregator platform, a one-stop solution for all services and information. If you have any legal troubles, want a legal service, or need to consult a legal expert, we can help you. Speak with our registered lawyers available in over 200 plus cities. To consult a lawyer, you can sign up or contact us. Click on Find Lawyer, and filter lawyers by specialization, location, or even PIN code.
Okay, thank you so much for watching. What we can do is we will add a link.
Get
for our
contact
website
details
in
of
the
lawyers
comment
instantly and
section,
contact the
everybody
lawyer.
can check the website post the event. Um, let's begin with what we've all joined here today for. Um, so what when we were discussing what our panel discussion should be about, we thought that what is more relevant and what is more thought provoking than something that we see every day when you switch on the news, and every day when you're seeing something going on in TV where they're discussing some case and they're discussing something that's happening in the country. There is so much that is already said before the case has gone to court, or before it's gone forward with the procedures. There's so much already said on the news, or in movies, or everywhere that we in social media, everywhere around us. So, in the past few months, we've all come across some gruesome and unimaginable headlines of serial killings. On the other hand, we constantly see how, like I was saying, that when you switch on news or when you see social media, there is something or the other where they've given the facts of some case, and they have also declared the verdict of what the case should look like at the end. So that's why today we'll be discussing these two issues with our legal experts. One is, like we said, media trials, and second is how these things, how the stuff that is there on OTTs and social media probably affect the minds of people, and whether that actually makes gives a rise to the cases that are going on in the country with regards to criminal cases. In the traditional or simpler way of looking at court proceedings, it is usually two lawyers. They are presenting their arguments. One lawyer is explaining something, and the other is giving some evidence, and then the judge is giving their judgment. In reality, however, there are so many more things that impact a proceeding, and one major external impact we will discuss today is the media. So I want to ask everybody. Let's start with asking everybody. How do you think that the media influences the court proceedings? How do you think that this happens? Anybody can start.
Hi Shreya. So, I think media creates a moral panic among the public. If you would take an example of a few years back, a celebrity allegedly committed suicide, and the partner of that celebrity was blamed, even though there was no evidence against it, and even there's a particular procedure which is usually followed in any criminal trial or in any criminal matter. But everybody around the whole country had already decided that no, this whole issue and the alleged suicide was caused because of this particular person, because of what I think her whole life was affected. So that is something, it creates a moral panic, and it sensationalizes the whole issue on a bigger term without having any particular evidence, or maybe sometimes it's just interesting. It's interesting for the people will consume a story like that. So it becomes, so that is how media sometimes portrays a story, because it becomes interesting and people will watch that more, rather than relying on what the actual facts are. Getting quotations from people who are not legal experts or who know more about this, maybe from people from the family who are also not aware, and other sources which are not verified.
Right. Um, Hers, would you like to add something to this as well?
So I, on quite an aspect, agree with Miss Singh on what she had to say. I have a slightly different view in terms of what the media can or does do to a court proceeding. You see, there are two types of situations. One is the media that is covering the court proceeding, and the other is the media that is involved in investigative journalism. The media that is covering is generally bound to uh, provide you with more facts, provide you with more ground realities, because they are relaying what has happened to you. Sorry, excuse me. What has happened in court. What is more troubling and affecting the societal thought structure, what I generally call as emotional turbulence nowadays, is investigative journalism. And that is where the media trial concept also kicks in. The Bombay High Court, in a few years ago, when I mean, I'm going to talk about the same example that Akriti gave of that celebrity. Uh, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong. Uh, so, in that matter, coverage, the Bombay High Court had laid down certain guidelines. Case was Nilesh Navlakha versus Union of India. Now, in that, they had said that sensationalization of court records is prohibited, but recognition of aspects in a trial which is public domain, which is available in public domain, is opinionative, and consumption of such opinions does not amount to a media trial. However, influencing court records based on such investigative journalism amounts to media trial and should not be admissible in court. The Indian Evidence Act also provides you about how you can appreciate evidence. You need to give the source, you need to give uh, the standing, the authenticity. So that's how I would say that despite what the society thinks, uh, judges per se who are actually conducting the trial, who are actually adjudicating the trial, would definitely not get affected. But on the other hand, if someone has seen Lincoln Lawyer, the first episode talks about a very celebrity trial. This first season, first episode talks about a celebrity trial, and in that the suspect, or as they say in the US courts, or the accused in Indian courts, says that I don't want a not guilty verdict. I want an acquittal, because the public image matters to me more than the court record. So you see, the media trial is more affecting the accused mentality rather than on ground reality. So, in my terms, investigative journalism is something that really needs to be regulated at some point of time. Let's see how the discussion throughout unfolds.
Yeah, but before when you said Lincoln Lawyer, that I thought of that as well, because I remember it happening. In fact, it happens in the show multiple times, right? Where they talk about how the image is what matters so much, and I think that affects so much in the court. Especially when they talk about how somebody is, or the case that
It'll affect the strategy. It'll affect the strategy on how you approach the court and how you approach the entire defense. That, I mean, media trial and public image will definitely affect the strategy. That, oh, you want to, you want to make have a finishing like Dhoni, last ball six, or you want to have a cheeky single at the last ball. So
Yeah,
that's a decision that gets affected.
that's true. That's true. Shad, would you like to add to this as well?
Yeah, hi Shreya. Both the panelists kept their views on this important topic, like how does the media influence criminal proceeding? Basically, when we consider about criminal proceeding and criminal proceeding in media trial, we are having two kind of impact, which I personally think, like pressure and influence is there. Whenever there are celebrity cases, like we can take an example of Rahul Gandhi. Nowadays, everyone knows that in the history of Indian, like IPC has been invented in 1860. From there on, in last 162 years, almost all, Rahul Gandhi is the only example who get punishment around 2 years conviction for that particular defamation. And there are a lot of coverage provided by the media over here in criminal proceeding, defamation criminal case over there. So media influence is there for even it can say for the judges, for the parties, we can say for the witnesses also. Whenever media interferes, it creates a pressure, influence, and more than that, if we say media think about appeals and retrials, like media discuss on their panels nowadays. Every we are seeing that they are discussing about the how can appeal will be made out, how can retrials will be made out. Means there is judiciary in our country for to discuss these things. The media should not go into the how the appeal will be made out. So whenever media is covering such kind of sensitive issues like criminal proceeding, especially in say celebrity cases or anything, they should have such kind of responsibilities. Moral responsibility should be there, which I personally think.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So I want to direct my next question then to Harsh again. So, I mean, although you have kind of covered this already, but what is your opinion about the popular, media trials like the Sheena Bora case that Ankita was saying, or the Arushi Talwar case? Would it be different if the media didn't cover these cases as intensely as they did?
No, I don't think they would have been any different per se. See, like I said previously, the appreciation of court records and evidence happens inside the doors of the courtroom, and that aspect of media, uh, which media covers, remains unadulterated because a anything that is said against the courtroom or the court, the judiciary, or inconsistent thereof can be treated as contempt. And suo moto initiation of contempt proceedings is not something that the courts haven't done in the past. But at the same time, a lot of I'm just going to deviate from media trials to the role of media in sensitive issues, and I'm going to talk about uh, an incident that happened during the Kargil war and thereafter occurred also during the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai. You see, the media is so consumed or so overwhelmed with the concept of providing information that at times it ends up providing a lot of confidential information also, which at that relevant moment the people need not know, because it is not going to be productive when the people are being made aware of that. Of course, later on, as an FYI, if you run that and you are trying to educate the people, that's acceptable. But on ground, like during the Kargil war, uh, the army was not equipped with satcom to relay their position situation with each other within the contingent. But we had our journalists, I'm not going to name them because it's an open platform, but we had our journalists equipped with international standard satcoms relaying information. Now unfortunately, because of their unawareness, uh, this information, because it was on an open link to the satellite, was breached by Pakistan, and we suffered casualty on that because of Pakistan recognizing our points of strategic points where we were trying to employ the armies and deploy the armies. I beg your pardon. So coverage is something that is of utmost importance and needs to be done uh, with with such an open eye, with foresight, not just with the focus of making people aware and making sure that you are the first channel that does it. Now, trying to answer your question directly, for cases like Sheena Bora, Jessica Lal, these are incidences that have already occurred, and there is backtracking for journalism happening, backtracking investigation also happening. At times, media can assist because media tries to go fair and square beyond the bounds of what is acceptable in courts as well. That can provide some material to the investigating authority, but at all points of time, the investigating agency needs to overcome the limitation put across by the Indian Evidence Act of authenticity. Till you cannot prove where have you got this information, or what is the source, or how is it relevant in by way of an investigation or charge sheet that brings out that there's a panchnama that was present at that time of gathering that evidence. Media reports are going to be alleged always, and any alleged document is open for interpretation on both sides. Uh, as a matter of fact, if you would ask me what would be the situation had these matters not been covered so intricately and so diversely and so vividly, uh, I'm sure conviction would have still come. I mean, wherever there has been a conviction. But the awareness that Sushant was talking about, which all the media houses today are trying to spread about what is appeal, how does an appeal lie, etc. I think that aspect would definitely have not come. Today, a lot of media houses are trying to educate themselves, bringing expert panelists on their channels to try and also educate that while we are only accused of trying to influence the judiciary proceedings, we are also on the at the same time trying to educate the people as to what their rights are. And in that manner, I'm very neutral about it. I don't mind media trials, but there shouldn't be media verdicts.
I think isn't that the biggest problem though, that when you are giving these facts, I was going to say before. So when Akriti was discussing the case before, the celebrity case, when she was discussing that, before a lot of stuff happened in court and before the investigation could happen, there was already maybe his girlfriend has done something, or there was already that decision made. And that's what is is mostly the question, is that um, these decisions are made and everyone knows about it, the lawyers know about it, the judge knows about it. So then doesn't that make a difference to what's going on in court?
uh, I have an example to answer this, and I don't know whether it's going to be productive with the intention of having this seminar or not. But I was appearing for an accused in an extradition matter. He was accused of a murder of a woman in Glasgow, UK, in 1999. The woman was a professional sex worker, and at in 1999, my client was a student in the Glasgow Nautical College. Now, one thing led to another. He was deported for some other reasons. But in 2014, I'm sorry, in 2017, this gentleman was arrested because of certain media reports of an Indian having been deported for crimes committed. Now, this was a very incomplete media headline that had been covered in the UK press at that point of time. The Scotland Yard, basing their you know foundation of arrest and accusation, reached and released an Interpol notice, red corner notice, issued it to India, figured out where my client was, got him arrested. Now, in 2021, I was successfully able to portray to the High Court, Bombay High Court again, that while this was a red corner notice against this person, it was coincidental that he had a deportation at the same time, that there was a crime, and there was a CCTV footage of that crime which showed a man, well, in Britain language, a man of color, XYZ height, XYZ appearance, and uh, there is in fact a office report of the external ministry that says that the Scotland Yard shared documents of the UK tabloids that established that it was him and he had been deported, and all of that, and I was able to get a successful uh, his discharge. But I'm long story short, what happened is, on the day of his arrest, Indian media declared him murderer of a foreign national, despite his uh, he had a family, etc., etc. uh, he had a fantastic job, children in school. Unfortunately, what just happened is, despite getting the discharge in 2021, because of the extensive media coverage in India, he could not get a job after he was released from bail in 2017, and thereafter, after his acquittal in 2021, eventually the gentleman committed suicide a few months back out of depression. So this is something that extensively can get affected, and is something that I really wanted to put across. In fact, there was a situation where we were planning to file a 32 Article 32 petition before the Supreme Court, invoking the right to be forgotten, that I have been acquitted, and all of my antecedents or whatever negative press that had garnered against me ought to be deleted from the internet. But before that could fructify, gentleman passed away.
Uh, I mean, exactly. That's what it has a very. I mean, the more we talk about it, in fact, from what you said and what we read before, it has this impact on the way the person's life. Even obviously the court proceedings, since we're talking about that, but even post that, it it gets really difficult. So I think, Sushant, my next question is to you. If you could shed light on how investigation bodies probably tackle the media coverage, because, like, since we were discussing now, and since Harsh was saying that there were journalists who went to cover the Kargil war, and information gets leached and stuff like that. So how do investigative bodies keep uh, this information to themselves, and how do they tackle that, the media coverage?
Yeah, when we consider such kind of things, like how to tackle these things, we should know one thing very much. Like in some media trials, we can say, an investigation agencies can put their official spokesperson over there to provide an genuine statement behalf of the that particular investigation agency that may make a impact, a positive impact, we can say, because monitoring that particular media coverage is not possible for anybody nowadays. And investigation agencies, if able to put any officer over there, spokesperson, we can say, over there for particular giving a briefing about the case, the briefing which are required to be get briefed, not that which are secure briefing, we can say. The confidential briefing should not be disclosed anywhere, like that. So that will make an impact according to me. And we can say managing the statements. Like there are number of investigation agencies everywhere. We can say NI is there, CBI is there. Number of officers are there. Like in police, Maharashtra police also we are having. The officers are used to give number of statements at the time of whenever any incident happens. So they should avoid such statements because it will directly impacting the case, because media coverage, as the sir said, that the thing happened with his client. It was very means it should not happen in any content, but it happens. Extensive media coverage should not be there. So while making any statement, there should be a restriction on the particular investigation officer. There should be, there may be spokespersons may be there when they can give a proper briefing.
Right. Can do you think that is there a law in place that helps in this kind of thing, like where it says that this should be covered by the news, or is there nothing like that, or is there?
I'm not getting a question. Will you repeat?
Is there a law in place that we have today that covers that this should be shown on the news, or this should be covered by the media and this shouldn't be covered by the media? Is there something like that?
Actually, basically, it's very difficult to decide actually, as there is no such law over here right now when we say this. Like media, as I said in the earlier contest, that media should report with genuineness, with responsibly they should report their any news, any content. While there, they should not try a parallel judiciary, because we are having legislative, we are having judiciary, we are having executive bodies. Everyone is there, and media need to play their role only. They should not go in investigation. There are investigation agencies; they are managing well. Everyone is there. So as a system is working, media should place any matter or any content responsible, like with responsibility, with due responsibility. It's required actually.
Right. So
Also,
there
Shreya,
isn't.
sorry to
Yeah.
just butt in
Yeah.
to support what Mr. Sushant is saying, that while there is no law per se, right, because of the freedom of expression that the Constitution of India grants us, but there are guidelines by the Press Club of India that state that, what kind of coverage, what should be the amount of coverage, how extensive should it be when it contains, for example, even the the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India gives you these guidelines, and if there is some gruesome uh, information, it needs to be censored. Probably if it's a news report and not breaking news, it needs to be contained in the time when it is not a family prime time viewing, etc., etc. There are guidelines and categorization of programs also that these news channels are supposed to adhere to. But at the same time, it is difficult, like Mr. Sushant mentioned, it's difficult to distinguish as a regulator on a daily basis what is being covered, what ought to be covered, what is not to be covered. Everything is done in a fraction of a second, and eventually everything is going to be something that is going to be uh, retrospective or reprimanding in retrospective. That does not really.
Uh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I have lost you, but I couldn't hear the last couple of things you said.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you are now.
Right. No, I was saying that while it is difficult to distinguish aspects, what is utmost required or of vital importance is self regulation. And these media houses should employ a self regulation mechanism that decides what kind of media, to what extent a court case needs to be covered, to what extent does it need to be uh, disclosed in public eye.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And actually, that gives me a good segue to the question I want to ask Akriti. So the media tends to, like we've been discussing, they twist facts, and they spread information sometimes without verifying them. So how do you think such reports and information affect the court, and also is this information actually taken into consideration, or can you prove that this information was just information by the media and it's not true, or how does that work?
So, in my limited practice in criminal cases, what I've noticed it is that in court, it does not usually impact the trial per se, but it does affect the safety and security of people who are involved in this matter. The whole media trial, it does that. And apart from the negative impacts which we are talking about of media trial, there is one instance which I would like to share, which in a case in 2016, Nirbhaya gang rape case. So that was not the only one single case which had happened in Delhi. In every day we have similar cases still happening, and even before that. But that one case, it gained so much attention from the media that it led to some really positive changes in our laws. So there is impact, of course. There is always an impact, but it does not necessarily need to be positive, or does not need to be always negative. It can also be positive.
Right. Right. So you don't think that any of this information, like although we have kind of discussed this, but do you not think that any of this information, like is like it's set in your conscience, right? Like if I'm hearing the news every day and then I'm going to court after that, it's kind of there in my mind that
It
this
does. So,
heard this.
whenever you appear on behalf of the accused, even if the case is not sensationalized by the media, even if in anything, maybe a dowry death matter or a murder matter, if you're appearing on behalf of the accused, the judges and the judiciary and even the prosecutor, they already have that sense that no, this person most probably is guilty, so they already most of the times have decided that in their own head. So if the particular case is getting a lot of media coverage, then obviously that would be there, and that environment, you if as an advocate or as an accused, you would feel that in the court. And yes, there is, it might influence the decision also at times.
Right. Okay, so this brings us to the second part of our discussion, where we wanted to discuss how, since we're discussing media, we also wanted to discuss how things we see on, OTTs and social media actually have an impact on, people today, and how it probably increases the number of cases that come to court, or whether that actually happens, or this is just something that again is sensationalized and is not true. This is something that we could probably discuss now. So why we thought of this is because I mean everyone's heard of the recent cases of the Poonawalla, where there was a gruesome murder, and it was based. He thought of that because he watched something, and then he thought, oh, this is he could use that way, and he used that way to carry the murder on, or other instances like this. So the first question here is it possible that this dark OTT content can influence people and give rise to such horrific cases? And has it given a rise to the cases that have come in the current times? Are there more cases because of content like this? So Harsh, if you could give us an insight on that.
See, I always say that if a negative thing can affect you, why didn't any positive thing get affect you? If there is dark media that is going to dark OTT content that is going to invite people to commit crimes, we've got a lot of spiritual stuff online. you got a lot of motivational stuff online. Why isn't the society getting better? So that is sort of an abstract to what I'm going to answer now. A lot of this content is public knowledge in terms of court records, in terms of newspaper clippings, news coverage. It's just that for the dramatic effect, the producers, filmmakers, directors, actors, all of them combine it to make it so dark. Of course, there have been dark issues in uh, recent history, in extensive history of mankind. But to put it that squarely, that you know such content today motivates people to commit such crimes is something that is unfair to media houses. On the other hand, uh, a lot of crime today is getting very creative, I must say. uh, things, you look at Afsa Punawala, uh, you look at the I'm sorry, I'm missing the name of that Shahid Kapoor feature uh, on the counterfeit money currency.
Oh
But
yeah, Farsi.
uh, Farsi,
Farsi.
sorry, it was in the name. So something like that will always make an inquisitive person more curious about whether such things can actually work in reality. That is something that is again self-restraint. If we are going to be so naive and so vulnerable to trying to do everything that we come across, that's a dark day for mankind itself. There have been, like, the Bukhari murders, the Upar case documentary that is going to be released soon or is already on Netflix. I'm not sure, but you see, these are coverages of past. Now, today, you look at don't just look at blue collar crime where you have murders, etc. A story of Mehul Choksi in Billionaire Brothers, Billionaire Story of Billionaire, whatever that was on Netflix again, can always make a good money-headed account specialist try and see that can I actually commit a fraud and can I get away. But you see, as much as all of that is possible, getting affected by something like this is I'm not going to agree with the fact that it's a media house issue. It's more of a person to person issue. uh, at the same time, if I am today going to accept this fact, like I said, it's going to be a dark day for mankind, and then we should enter the uh, governance like North Korea and have everything in the control of the government and make sure that they are only educating to to the limited extent.
Right. But do you think that a balance is necessary? Like there is a balance between what they are showing and so you don't show everything, but you do show some things that uh,
Yeah,
are
possibly. Like, for example, Uri is something in my mind. It is so fascinating. At times, when I'm watching it, I think it is hyped up to a more dramatic level, and what must have happened would have been a more coordinated, less heroic adventure thing. At the other time, I think that no, something like this is possible, and for all you know, that intern might have actually got a chance to showcase his originality with the whole uh, unmanned drone, etc., etc. But the fact that it brings this question into me itself establishes that look, this content can't be applied to everyday commonplace activities directly. You need to have mens rea, the first thing in crime, guilty mind, to let any of these things affect you. If you don't have a guilty mind, then all these things are not going to affect you.
right. Now you spoke like a true lawyer. Right. So the next question that I have is that do you think that such dark content on OTT platforms that don't probably pass the censor board? Because um, it is said a lot of times that a lot of content that goes on OTT platforms is not as censored as the content that goes on, which comes out in the theaters. There's different. There's a board, there's a censorship board that sits and sees the movies that go in out in the theaters, and it's not the same process for OTTs. So if you're anybody from the panel could like tell us about the censorship and how that works, and also although we already discussed it, should it be censored, and but how does it go about it, and how does this content get approved to go on OTT platforms? Anybody?
So, Shreya, OTT platform is very different from national television.
Right.
Right? So you have to subscribe to it, and then there are disclaimers also as well, which shows that this content is 18 plus and this is gritty or edgy, and these all woke terms which are being used. But sure, I think the content can be regulated more, if preferably, if not censored, but regulated more, so that only 18 plus people, the adult content is being consumed only by people who are adults. And if there are any trigger warnings and so the trigger warnings and everything, all of them are there. But also, I was recently reading a paper on Global Media Journal which spoke about psychological impacts of web series and streaming content on Indian youth, which concluded that watching violent web series increased aggression and violent behavior in the youth. So it did not per se say that yes, it leads to more crime, but it tends to, people who keep on watching and consuming such content, they do tend to become more aggressive and showcase more symptoms of anxiety, depression, and other issues.
Right. So, and um, can you guys give us an idea of how they censor it, whether it's censored for OTT or for the theaters? How do they censor something that comes?
I
Uh,
think it wasn't. It is still not decided. I don't think it is still censored, but I think they were about to take an action and they did not. It's still pending. I think the
Right.
decision is
It
still
is
pending.
pending
It is still
for
pending.
the theatrical description of a movie,
Hmm.
and for television in our house, there is the Cinematographic Act and its extension by the Cable Television Act. So, under the Cinematographic Act, the CBFC, the Central Board of Film Certification, has the uh, mandate and the powers vested unto them to issue censors and censor certificates. While on the OTT, there are the IT guidelines of 2021. Now, the IT guidelines of 2021 have been seeing some amendments every 6 8 months. The recent amendments bring about a self regulation mechanism and a grievance redressal mechanism in house first. Uh, in the event there is content which someone is not happy with, obviously there is a list of content that you can't have pornography, you can't have uh, child pornography, you can't have seditious content. All of these are already part of it, and to that extent it is regulated. But to a more liberal way than how movies in the theater or TV as we watch, um, they are, well, I wouldn't say governed, but there are guidelines that apply, and these guidelines contain that, again, you can't have uh, what's the word I'm looking for, you can't have content that incites violence, that incites seditious feelings, incites any unnatural modes of emotion. And these guidelines further say that if anyone is aggrieved, they can first reach out to the OTT platform themselves, ask for a takedown. If that does not function, then the Information Broadcasting Ministry is their next stop shop. And then obviously, then if information broadcasting ministry does not help them, then article 226 of the Indian constitution, and then if nothing else, then SLP. But that's a long way, but there is a mechanism that you can
And then
always
nothing else, stop watching.
freedom of expression. I can't say that. I want to watch, but I don't want such things on my TV or
Yeah.
tablet. But there is a mechanism, and it is not a foolproof mechanism. I will admit to that. But then again, I'm like I uh, advise TMT. I sorry, TMT advises a lot of media clients, and we come across a lot of instances when a lot of viewers are reaching out to us, telling us about the costumes they don't like that our characters are wearing, the language that our characters are using, uh, the way in the manner in which certain crimes were shown were too gruesome. Sometimes some content is too sexually active. We get those complaints, we redress them in certain manners. We tell them that, well, this is, we are within the bounds of what is permissible. But
Right.
getting certification, I mean censor certification onto internet, is, see, you can't get a partial certification that only if you want an OTT description you need censor certificate, because these things can be their clippings then will, trailers which are on YouTube, they will also need certification, then their trailers on Instagram will need certification, then those reels or stories or threads or whatever is made will require certification. That gets into too much regulation. And internet, as it has been formulated since ever, had to be a lesser regulated uh, uh, what do you say, pool of people rather than the regular society.
Right. So, do you, so do they give more importance to the country's regulation of what is shown? Because like it is different, you know, the content on Netflix is different in India and it's different in the US and it's different. So do they first give the first like priority to what the country's laws are and then kind of what say Netflix has set for themselves,
Yeah,
or
absolutely,
goes
absolutely.
hand in hand with
Law of the land is the primary law that has to be followed. I mean, there is no, we follow, like Sushant previously mentioned, we are the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative, the trias politica system. And in that trias politica system, rule of the law is mandatory, and rule of the law is no one is above the law, not even the court themselves.
right.
So it is mandatory for them to follow what the country itself has considered to be seditious, what the country has considered to be uh, content that is not supposed to be aired. But I mean, if today, if there is, say, some content that glorifies adultery, the law of the land has also decriminalized adultery. So then there would be an individualistic preference to that. Then there'll be a situation where an individual will reach out, file a police complaint, file a try and restrain the streaming of such content, etc., etc. And then high courts have taken stand. In fact, Delhi High Court very recently has restrained a documentary on Netflix being aired. I was just reading it before. Uh, if you give me, it's called A Big Little Murder. Delhi High Court has restrained them from being streamed for whatever reasons. So that's the case.
Right. Shan, before we move to audience questions, would you want to add something to what we've been talking about?
Yeah, basically, as the question says, what will be whether it required censorship. Basically, what I personally think, in my point of view, censorship differ from person to person. Means, as we are discussing about, there should be a, like there is a censor board for movies we are having, but there is no restrictions on OTT content. Now it there should be censorship in it, and with an individual, like every person who is watching that particular content should decide. Like, if nowadays social media platforms are very smart. If you like, I'm an advocate, I search something related to check bouncing, it will show me same things. If any individual want to watch anything related to like an romantic love story, he will see that kind of ads, he will see. So as the Bhagavad Gita said, ये आप में है कि आपको क्या करना है. भगवत गीता सेड लाइक दिस कि इट्स डिफर फ्रॉम पर्सन टू पर्सन. तो censorship should be in person, that what he want to watch. As any adult want to watch that kind of content, he should watch that kind of, because content can be cultural and can be present in artistic views also, content way also. So it should not be banned completely, because while any doing any censorship, that individual should maintain his own mindset before watching. As we are in a country where constitution having a lot of remedies available for us. So in my point of view, there should be an individual should decide what to watch, what to not watch. So it's up to everybody, like that.
Right, I agree. I agree that, and like we've discussed. Everyone, I think, has said this, that you should have the freedom to do what you want to do, and at the same time have enough presence of mind, if I'm putting it correctly, that you don't take this stuff that you're watching to your head and be like, oh, they are doing it, so maybe I should try it, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I also, just to I mean, no one's asked me the question, but just to give my point of view, like I was discussing earlier, I think that there should be, like, a balance between what we show and what we don't show, because yeah, agreed that you should be able to make that distinction, that this is happening on screen and this is my real life and this is something I shouldn't be doing. But at the same time, we don't know what impacts what person and what situation that person is in. And so I think that there should be a balance between what we're showing and what we're not showing and that kind of thing. But yeah.
Food for thought, Shreya.
Yeah.
Theaters are regulated premises. The admission of patrons in theaters is regulated, right? Probably we can propose that theaters should not have censorship, and OTT, which is available in your house, should be censored because it is freely available to watch for anyone and everyone, regardless of whether there is an age bar or not. You know that a child is going to click that I'm 18 and watch the content anyway. So probably we can switch the censorship from being in theaters to being on television and OTT, and let the theaters be able to show whatever they want.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, but yeah, that's true. All right, so let's move to audience questions now. The questions are not addressed to one person, so whoever wishes to answer the question um, can go ahead and answer the question. So the first question is, how do Indian laws address ethical and legal implications of media reporting on criminal investigations and trials? Although we already discussed this, if you could give a brief of the answer, anybody.
Uh, so now, A, how who is going to distinguish between ethical and legal reporting? So, in as much courts do not consume media reports, let's just have that openly said. Courts do not consume media reports at the time of adjudicating the trial. But as you are aware that I mean, our Chief Justice of India is someone who is extremely tech savvy and extremely uh, aware about what is happening on social media, not just about him, but about the courts, about various other judges. You can say that the courts are aware about the media reports, and that at times would uh, become a situation where the courts can, if they see that a lot of rampant negative journalism is happening, or a lot of invasive journalism is happening, not just investigative but invasive journalism is happening, which is hampering the police to conduct its investigation, or which is hampering the accused to live their life as an accused and not as a convict. Courts are open to pass. They have the discretion to pass orders restraining media houses. Gag orders are nowadays very common in trials. So, in that aspect, the only way that the distinction between ethical and legal or illegal coverage would be by discretion of court.
Right. Does anyone else want to add anything to this as well? Okay. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question then. They've asked, how does the government or the legal system tackle the issue of spreading misinformation or illegal content?
So the IT guidelines are presently working towards fact checking and fact analysis. It's been challenged and objected to, but I'm sure, given in a couple of years, we'll have a more robust system for what is true, genuine, and factually correct.
Okay. Um, yes. Anybody else wants to answer this question as well? All right. So I guess, and the other audience questions are all a little what we've already spoken about. So before we bring the discussion to an end, if everyone could just give their last piece of um, thing that they would want to say about what we've been discussing, so we could, yeah.
I'm sorry, Shreya. Actually, I had some internet connection. I missed out on the question. Could you just repeat what the question was?
Oh yeah, sure, sure. So before I asked, how does the government or legal system tackle the issue of spreading misinformation or illegal content?
I think the legal system is so people, the judges and the judiciary, they are selected out of a lot of already eligible people. So I think they go through that rigorous training already. So and of course with experience also. So I think that is in there so that they know because of the training they have been through and because of how frequently they deal with it. It might be very new for us, for people, for layman people or the regular media and the media also, but not for these people. They know how to go through it and go about it.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. They've been doing it so often that it probably doesn't seem like as big a
Yes,
deal as us discussing it.
while dealing with police officers also, they do not get attached emotionally, or they usually they do not get so very influenced by the media. And even when they do, so there are 161 the statements under 161 CRPC, so they are also required to be proven in court. So if the police starts giving on information or the statements which have been recorded, they make it public, then again the situation of media trial will arise again, which they are mostly aware about, that they that this information is confidential, and they're not supposed to give such statements or to give such confidential documents and other things to the media, so for them to decide it by themselves.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So thank you. Now, like I was saying before, now if everyone could give their last thoughts on everything that we were discussing, so that yeah.
I'll go
We could,
first.
yeah, yeah.
Um, to summarize our conversation today, I agree there should be some kind of fact checking. Let's just go back, last in, first out in terms of thought process. There should be fact checking, fact analysis. The government is already in process with the IT guidelines for fact checking. That should be, like I said, robust in a couple of years, 100%, but active maybe in 6 8 months. Uh, in terms of content censoring, on OTT, there is scope, but the plausibility of its legality
will be questioned because internet is a free space of expression. Uh, However, probably there could be, in terms of criminology or the criminal aspect of content, there could be some kind of censorship. But then that will again be discriminatory and violative of Article 14. Although I'm personifying criminology to have that kind of rights, but well, people who create that kind of content will fill in their shoes. Um, Media trial, our major concept, absolute no no. uh, Media investigative journalism, absolute no no. Invasive journalism, absolute no no. But assistive journalism, correct journalism, for example, what Live Law, Bar and Bench are doing, is something that is extremely relevant. uh, Debates on legal remedies, like Mr. Sushant mentioned, I'm open to them when they're being made by experts. I don't like sitting at home and listening to someone who claims to be a legal enthusiast and gives the wrong advice, and eventually people start following that. Uh, yes, and eventually the sanctity of legal proceedings should be left to that, between the lawyers, the parties involved, and the courts itself, and there shouldn't be intrusion of uh, uh, unrelated parties. So that's what I summarize in 5 to 6 bullet points.
Yeah, I think very well said. I think, okay, Akriti, if you,
So I think a little more research, even in these legal media houses. So what happens is, if sometimes I notice that if there is an order or a judgment given by courts, what these legal media houses tend to do is they would make the observations, which are merely observations of the court, they show it as the operative part of the whole judgment. And sometimes quoting 2 3 lines of an order or a judgment and posting it online, it people tend to take it in some different sense, and it was meant as just a mere observation. So I think more patience and more knowledge, and maybe a little more, little more learning is needed while making such posting such things on online, so as to not influence regular people. Because us as lawyers, I we always go through the orders and we understand what the judge or the judiciary they mean by that. But regular people, layman's, they don't. So I think they have that responsibility to the people, and they should read more and they should understand it better and then post about it. And coming to dark OTT, yes, I agree with Mr. Harsh that mens rea is actually very important. So if a person is watching and getting influenced, of course they have that in mind. But yes, it does. Specifically, if coming to young minds, yes, it does impact people who are not just minors, maybe even in their early 20s. So because they start relating with that content to their own lives, and then they make decisions according to that. So that is something which can be regulated. I really don't know how, and even after putting sanctions on it, I don't know if it would be people would adhere to it. But yes, it needs more regularization.
okay, great. And Sushant, you.
Yeah, while summarizing about our today's discussion, one thing I what I said earlier that whenever when we consider that there should be a media impact on judiciary or anything, no such things happens anyway, because judges or we say preceding officers are there. They are having their own book of tables to read, to discuss. They are having their own knowledge. They are having their own discretion to see the things. Like I said, media trials should not run parallelly. Like parallel judiciary should not run, which what I personally think. And when we see about the dark OTT contents, like as I said, it differs from person to person, and person should decide what you want to watch. As anyone want to watch on motivational stories, he will get the motivational content only. If anybody want to watch that kind of content which might be censored, it may be censored in future by the government, but it's up to government. So in my view, the person should decide what to watch, when to watch, and what will be the content, because there are number of things. When we say adultery, there are artistic contents also, cultural contents also. So it should get promoted more. Like such something happened with like Adi Purush. We say that sentimented got hurted of Hindu mythology is there. Ramayana, what we saw in our childhood, that was different, and now the director and the writer is saying that we are making this film for the today's youth. So nobody is going to watch such kind of content if genuineness is not there. So in my views, the content should be regularized in a such a manner whether they should be might be good for some people, might be bad for some people. So like that it should happen, which I personally feel.
Right. I mean, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do, yeah.
I think
Okay. Yeah.
Sushant has given you a fantastic tagline for you know uh, putting up this webinar on various platforms, that media trial, we do not need a parallel judiciary. He hit the nail at the right spot. I don't think there can be anything said better.
Yeah, I think Sushant was speaking in lesser sentences, but his sentences were hitting us where we required, that kind of thing. So it was really nice. It was really nice listening to all of you today. I have learned a lot personally, and I think that I had an amazing time understanding how it works and what happens. And I hope everyone who was on the line with us today also has, and who watch it later also will. And thank you all for being a part of this panel discussion. We're here because we're celebrating the third anniversary of Rest the Case, and
Congratulations.
so thank you. So
Very
we're
nice.
glad that you all are all part of this, and you all have come together and yeah, helping us give more information to people on
Pleasure.
something that is prevalent and something that's going on around us. So with that, I think we can start the panel discussion, and let me, yeah, Ankita, you can take over. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was a very insightful panel discussion. We learned a lot about how the court proceedings happen and how media affects it, and so much more. So, on behalf of Team RTC, I would like to thank all of our panelists for taking out the time to discuss this important issue from their busy schedules. It was a great conversation, and it also has given us a fresh perspective. And I also want to thank to our audience. This event wouldn't have been the same without them. And we hope that the audience and the panelists to see you in many other events of Rest the Case in future. And we are going to add the link of our website in the comment section so you all can go through it. And once again, thank you all for being a part of the third anniversary of Rest the Case. And be stay safe and healthy and have a great day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.